unedited. You already know what it is. Live, uncut. All right, people, come on in. Come on in. I have a special guest today, Miss Gail Smith. Come on in, people. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. And we're going to got some great information today we want to talk about today. So I need a few more people to come on in, and we're going to do it. We're streaming live here from YouTube and Twitter. So, hey, people, what's going on? I got a special guest today, and we're going to talk about some things. I guarantee you, people, you're going to love us for this information. I did not know nothing about this information. So I'm bringing it to you guys. I'm going to wait till at least about 50 to 100 people come on. Right now, we're at 22. I need you guys to share this video. We're at 25 now. This is live, uncut, unedited, people. You already know what it is. Come on in. This is where we tell the truth and shame the devil. And we want to help mothers and mothers out. Hey, everybody. Hey, I'm going to holler out some names real quick, Gail. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Donnell, Keena Nicole, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? All right, how y'all doing? All right, Krista, Love. Listen, I need you guys to share this video because this is very important. This is some very good information, and I guarantee you guys would love this information. You probably would know somebody that needs this information. It's vital. It's really, trust me, it's a matter of life or death. But we're going to get started. I'm going to wait till at least 50 people. I got 40. Oh, there we go, 51 people. All right, I'm going to introduce you. This is Miss Gail Smith, and I'm going to read the introduction. You want to introduce yourself or you want me to introduce you, Gail?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read the introduction, make sure I get everything right. Children. We're talking about children now. This is the Children Act. It's called the Children Best Interest Act, but I'm calling it for short. All right. Children suffer lasting harm when they lose their parents. We all know that. All right. Too many parents are locked up for low-level charges. The Children Best Interest Act requires courts to consider children's need when making decisions about their parents. Every defendant with family responsibilities have a right to family impact statements. That is true. However, the courts have not been following this new law. The Children Best Interest Project can help. All right, there we go. That's what we're talking about today. All right, Miss Gail Smith is going to tell us. And listen, people, I did not know about this. Trust me, you guys know I'm real heavy on information. Information is great. It can save your life. People say what you don't know can't hurt you. I say what you don't know can kill you. Go ahead, my dear sister.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. So I got together with some formerly incarcerated parents, primarily moms, back in 2019, and we went down to Springfield and we got the legislature to pass this new law. The Visible Voices group from CLAIM, Chicago Legal Advocacy for Incarcerated Mothers, these were people who went through this themselves. And we were able to get the law passed, and the governor signed it, and it took effect January 1st, 2020. And then COVID hit. It's never automatic that a new law will be followed completely because people need to learn about it. But this was an unusual circumstance because courtrooms were disrupted by the pandemic, and people weren't getting, their cases weren't going forward, their criminal cases, they weren't getting sentenced. And the last thing people wanted to do was, I'm going to stop and learn about this new law. It just wasn't happening. So that's why we put together the Children's Best Interest Project. And this law has the potential to dramatically reduce the number of people who are sent to prison when they're convicted of an offense. Lots and lots of people go to prison for low-level crimes that really could be better addressed through community sentencing. People could go to treatment if that's what they need, or take a class and get a better job, or make restitution, or do a circle to figure out a form of restorative justice. It's particularly bad when you're dealing with a family because parent-child separation is an adverse childhood experience. And there were years of studies done in lots of different universities and medical facilities to look at the impact of separating children from their parents. And what they found out is that even into adulthood, children who suffer trauma like that, because we bond with our parents, it's how we learn about the world, it's how we our brains develop based in that relationship. The parent feeds the child, and if the parent isn't around to feed the child, that's immensely stressful. Baby feels like, I'm going to die if my mom doesn't show up soon, right?
Right.
When that's chronic stress, when that stress goes on over a period of time, it has an impact on our brains and it has an impact on our organs. So people in adulthood have things like clinical depression, heart disease, some cancers, diabetes, asthma, and COPD, serious life-threatening illnesses that take place because of the bad things that happen to us in childhood, and all of that cortisol that gets released day after day after day from the trauma that the children are suffering. So we want to stop that. We want the courts to consider children's needs whenever they're making a decision about the parent. And this can be applied pre-trial as well. People should not be held in jail unnecessarily, particularly when they've got family responsibilities. But the basic thing that this law said was that every person with family responsibilities, whether that is to a child or to a disabled family member you might be taking care of,
Mhm.
has a right to submit through their counsel. And you need to talk to your defense attorney about this because that's going to be your main ally there, right? Has a right to submit a family impact statement.
I have a question, real quick, Gail. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I'm
Now,
talking
I
too long.
noticed you said low-level crimes. Now, can you give us an example of a low-level crime?
Sure. Most property crimes, shoplifting, low-level theft, most drug crimes, you know, they call them class 3 and class 4 felonies. Anything that would be probationable, lots of people go to prison on stuff that's probationable. Now, this law does not say anything specifically
Okay.
about mandatory prison sentences. So the state is always going to try to push. I mean, the state is always going to overcharge to begin with, but they're always going to try to push and say, well, you can't apply this here because it's mandatory minimum. However, the defense attorney can prepare this packet and meet with the prosecutor and make the prosecutor understand what's at stake. And what has happened in a few cases is the prosecution lowers the charges and only charges a lesser charge or dismisses some of the more serious charges.
I have one more question too. Do you know of any cases? Since you said this is a new law, but it's never been, they don't use it. A lot of people don't know about it. So can you give us an example of a case or something?
I can give you a couple of examples.
Okay, perfect.
For pretrial, we were working with a mom. She is actually charged with first-degree murder.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to take it to trial. Her defense team is confident that she's going to be found not guilty. But in the meantime, she's sitting in jail. She has a little girl who was born severely prematurely. So as that little girl was, growing into a toddler and a preschooler, her mom was the one who helped her through speech therapy, physical therapy, to be able to develop and kind of catch up with other kids. And they were super, super close. When mom was arrested, that little girl started having problems and she was crying during school. We were able to go to the judge and say, this mom needs to have a bond set and she needs to have a lower bond. And she was released home a few days before Christmas. So now she is with her child while they're getting ready for trial. Little girl has her mom at home again. So, like, that's one example.
Okay, hold up. Before you give me the next one, this law only applies here in Illinois, right?
Yeah, it's all, well, there are five states that have
Okay.
similar things. Some have like a specific program that people need
Okay.
to be in. But there are 5 states. It's not all across the country.
Okay. This one. Okay. You give us a second example now.
Second example, so we have a young mom who's suffered a lot of abuse herself as she was growing up. She has 3 children. She was charged with several different drug-related offenses. And the state ended up dropping the one that was a Class X drug offense. And now she's taking a plea and she's gone through treatment, and she is caring for her kids and has a good job now and is going to serve some probation time.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
So, but they started out really wanting to send her to prison.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question too.
Oh,
How is it?
let me give you one quick one. So this is a dad
Okay.
who we worked with who, while he was pre-trial, we put together a packet, the mother of his child and some community organizations, and the judge is allowing him to go through a program pre-trial while he's in custody, and is almost certainly going to release him at the end of that program.
Oh, okay. Now, how is it this related to DCFS? Is it any of that involved? That's what I want to know
So
too.
I will say that when a child goes to DCFS because of their parent's absence, it is next to impossible for that parent to get that child back, even when they're home pretty soon. It's just a lot of bureaucracy, and they don't make it easy.
Oh, okay.
Children who go through foster care have a much, much higher risk of all kinds of serious problems, including prison themselves as adults. So one of the mitigating factors in this law is if there's a likelihood that nobody else is going to be able to care for this child, and this child's going to end up in foster care, that's a strong consideration to keep that parent at home.
Okay. That's good. I mean, why haven't we heard this law? I don't understand.
I think that there's several reasons why we haven't heard it. A lot of people don't know about mitigation law unless you're the defense lawyers should know about it, and we're working on that. So I think a lot of people don't know it, but I also think a lot of people, including judges, don't know a lot about child development and don't know how much harm we're doing when we split up a family like that and when we take a parent away from a child. So our job, doing this and doing a lot of other kinds of events, our job is to make sure that people know, if I am a parent and I'm charged with a crime, I have a right to submit a family impact statement through my lawyer, through my defense counsel. And then to spread the word, make sure that people know about it. Email me at that email address that's
on the screen,
along the bottom of the screen. We do 2 things to help people who are dealing with this situation. One thing is we teach workshops on how to do a good family impact statement. So people brainstorm together. We do not talk about the criminal charges at all, but we talk about the children's situation, and we talk about, who might write a really strong letter for you. Will your child's teacher write a letter? Does the pediatrician know that you're the only one who knows how to do the asthma medication right? So we try to pull in the community to do participatory defense for these families, right? And we brainstorm that in the classes. The other thing that we do is one-on-one consultation, free. All of this is free, to make sure that the defense counsel and the parent and the parent's family members are all working together to do a really good family impact statement.
So another question: how are you guys getting? I guess like like my station, getting the word out. So I guess getting the word out. So
Are we getting the word out?
yeah.
Well, we're doing a lot of events, community events. We've been doing a lot of workshops with the public defender's office and
Mhm.
different branches of the public defender. We did our first webinar with judges at the end of January, and we want to do more. We're going to try to get into the state's attorney's office. We haven't done that yet, but we're working on it.
Okay.
And then we're publishing some stuff in different publications and all. But yeah, just invite us. We have an advisory board, so those folks will also go out to different community events throughout Illinois. We're going to a conference way downstate near. It's kind of further south than St. Louis even this summer. So yeah, we do a lot of events and we will do more broadcasts like this as well.
Okay, perfect. And I know I'm asking a lot of questions because I'm just
Good.
I'm just sitting here. I'm like, wow, this is wonderful. So are you guys like located on the north side, the west side, south side here?
Our office is on the north side, but to be honest with you, we do most of our work online. We do most of our work
Okay.
by phone and on Zoom.
Okay.
All the webinars are on Zoom.
So everything is
We've done events in on the south side, north side, all over the place.
So all the information when you work with the parents is confidential, right? Everything is.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I am a lawyer.
Okay. All right. All right. So
sometimes I don't tell people that, but.
All right. Let me see if somebody got any questions down in the question box. Okay. Nobody have any questions yet so far. Okay. Ms. Gail, you can continue on until.
Yeah, I'll just tell you that this affects a lot of families.
Mhm.
I don't think that I think usually when people who haven't known anybody who's gone to prison think about prison, they think about really serious offenses, right?
Right.
The fact is, probably about 20% of men and 77% of women who've gone to Illinois Department of Corrections in the past 30 years or so are there for little petty low-level offenses.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we doing that? It does not make our community safer. It certainly doesn't make their lives better. They're not better when they come home. They're traumatized. One of our advisory board members went to prison for something she didn't do. Her partner was a drug dealer, and somebody was getting back at him by accusing her. She was 8 months pregnant at the time.
Mm.
She did the sentence. She was severely traumatized when she was in prison. The constant calling her out her name and racist stuff and some physical abuse as well, but mainly verbal. And she was shackled when she gave birth to her daughter and left 2 little boys behind with their grandmother.
Mm.
She was really messed up when she came home because her kids were mad at her. Her kids were little. They didn't understand, where the hell were you? She started using drugs for the first time in her life after she came home from prison. And then she started going back and forth to prison because of the drugs. So for the next 15 years or so, she was in and out. It was just tragic. Finally, she spoke up in court on her last criminal charge, and she said, "Judge, I don't want to die an addict." And the judge looked at her situation and allowed her to go to a really good treatment program in Lake County. And she completely has turned her life around. But her daughter still resents her. Her daughter, you weren't there. I never got a chance to really bond with you when I was little. One of her sons has clinical depression. All of her kids have issue with abandonment. It's hard for them to have a really healthy relationship now that they're getting married and raising their own kids. It's cropping up. So, why do we have to do it this way? It doesn't make any sense. And she's been doing a lot of public speaking with us and a lot of training of lawyers and judges with us as well.
Oh, okay. Great. That's great. So you said this law took effect when? This year or last year?
It took effect in 2020, right?
2020?
Yeah, right when the pandemic
Pandemic.
started. Yep.
Right. So how are you guys actually I shouldn't use the word force the judges to implement this
That's a
act?
really good question. Yeah, how do we hold courts accountable to actually follow the law, right?
Yes. Right.
So how we're doing it so far is mostly through defense counsel
Okay.
and by making sure that people who are defendants in cases know that they have this right. That's how we're mostly doing it. In an ideal world, I would really like to see that every case where a judge doesn't follow this gets appealed.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the case is overturned on appeal, judge doesn't feel good about that.
Mm.
So it is the law. It should be followed. We had a case. That's a hard thing to ask lawyers to do, to file an appeal in every case where that sentencing is wrong. There was a case that we actually only found out about after, like, the day the sentence was applied. This is a terrible case. Young mom was part of the uprising after George Floyd died. Right, she was in part of the demonstrations, and she was charged with a property crime related to the demonstrations. She was arrested. She was released on a low bond right away. First time she had ever been arrested. Time goes on. These cases drag on, especially during the pandemic. The cases
Right.
drag on. About a year later, she had her first baby.
Mm.
She and her partner had their first baby. About 7 months after that, she took a plea and was awaiting sentencing, going back and forth to court, mainly via Zoom on sentencing. She was breastfeeding her baby, which is the best thing you can do for a new baby. It just has tremendous health benefits, in terms of immunity and in terms of all kinds of health and in terms of bonding, right?
Right.
So she did the right thing for her child. That judge decided he was going to make an example of her and sent her to Cook County Jail for 120 days.
Wow.
So that baby lost his mom at about 7 months old. Not for a really long time, but the dad had to quit his job. So now the whole family's plunged into economic crisis. And right after that started the formula crisis, where there was no supply chain, right? Remember
Right.
how nobody could get hold of formula?
I remember it was a shortage. I remember that. I have another question too, which I know the answer. One of my people in the message said, "What is this law called?" I know. I just want you to say. I know what the law is.
The name of the law is the Children's Best Interest Act, and it is part of the mitigation law. If you were going to look it up online, it's the mitigation of sentences in the Illinois statute. One thing I don't want to forget about is that this also applies to caregivers who are taking care of their elderly mother who can't get to her doctor appointments by herself, or is in a wheelchair, or maybe is suffering from dementia. So it does also apply to caregivers.
Okay, that's different. What about disabled?
And anybody who is caring for a disabled person. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Wow, man. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, we could really reduce the number of people who are being sent to prison in this state if we apply this law the way the legislature intended.
Mm.
And the legislature, if you look at the law itself, it talks about the ACEs study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, because there are just tons of research papers written about preventing ACEs so that we can all be healthier and have a safer community, right? People won't be so messed up,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have better health.
Brilliant. I mean, this is beautiful. So, do you know of a case that was appealed to
Not
you?
yet.
No.
I don't know of a case that has been appealed yet. What I do know is a case where a mother went to prison for a DUI. And after this law passed, her lawyers went back in for a sentencing reduction. And her sentence got reduced only by 6 months. She has 2 young boys, school-age sons, who were suffering a lot from her absence. They're with their dad, but it's not the same. One of the things that my friends said, my friends' sons say is, just that love. That love I was getting from her every day. To have to go without that as a young kid, that's a great hardship.
So, how everybody can reach you is by the email that's below, right there. You see it, and it's in the title too. To reach out, and she's willing to come out do seminars, right? Webinars and
Webinars or seminars, yeah.
Okay. This
and they can join if they've got a case. They absolutely should email me, and we want to talk to their defense counsel right away and make sure that that's we're starting to figure that out before the case gets too far along.
Let me ask you a question, and I'm getting ready to end it in a minute. Have you ever experienced, or any one of your counsel friends experienced this law and the judge wasn't aware of it or didn't know anything about it? Okay.
Yes. One of the people in the public defender's office in Cook County has started using it pretty regularly, and I think now the judge he's in front of knows about it, but his first 8 cases, the judge reduced the sentence in 4 of them, 4 out of the 8 cases.
Okay.
And that was like half of them were dads and half of them were moms.
Wow. So it does work for the fathers as well.
Oh yeah, it should. I mean, so one of the factors is if the child is dependent on you for financial support, if you're the main breadwinner, mom or dad, that's a factor too, because poverty is not good for kids. It's really hard on kids.
Wow. All right. Let me see if anybody have any questions here. I'll say the children. Any other questions in the audience, people in the messenger box? Usually I have people to call in, but we've been having a little trouble. We have a lot of trolls. So I'm just.
Well, yeah. We don't need to feed the trolls.
No,
I want to do a shout out to Amy, DG, because teachers are definitely one of the audiences we're trying to get to. If I know that I've known elementary school teachers who they know that all of a sudden this kid is acting out or the kid's withdrawn. And sometimes that's because their parent is gone all of a sudden. So, if I've got a kid in my class and I know that mom, I knew that mom was a great mom, and I have that capacity to write a letter to support that mom and maybe make a difference in her case, I'm going to do that. We have a tip sheet for letter writing that we can send out.
Wonderful. So I like you guys because you don't have the mentality of lock them up and throw away the key, Yeah. And it's more, and you know what? And in my community, in the Black community, and a lot of times, we having problems with teenagers, 10, 11, 12 carjacking. And the first thing I said to, where are the parents? Where are the parents? And we say, so it's a lot going on in families and stuff like that. So
it's so interesting because when kids need their parents most, it's when they're really little and when they're in their young teens.
Yes.
And when the parent's gone, all hell breaks loose, right?
Right.
It's just like, So right. It's really important. I see Janet Belton is talking about the Evanston. I think you're talking about the Moran Center. They're fabulous. They do great work trying to help kids not be impacted by that system.
Good, great. This is amazing. I'm definitely going to share it with my people and my audience. This is amazing. We need this. We definitely need that. Instead of
organizations can join our coalition. Email me if you are part of an organization and you're the head of it, or you can get the head of it to sign on. We need to build this coalition and make sure that the word keeps getting out.
Now, is it a charge for you guys to come out or something?
Nope.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have enough money.
Okay.
We're just trying to gear up to hire our second full-time staff person.
Mhm.
So we definitely can use donations. I should have given you, well, it's on the Facebook page, the donation link,
Mhm.
and I'll post it again when we go offline. So yeah, we definitely can use individual donations. We also have some foundation support.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I think that comes to the end. Is there anything else, attorney?
I just want to thank everybody who's commenting, and the more we get the word out, the more we're going to be able to hold the courts accountable.
Mhm. So this is not for like, well, DUI is a felony offense. It was.
Yeah.
What about, what about,
We got that one case, the mom, that was what she had,
right.
DUI.
Now, what if, domestic violence? If,
So same thing, a couple things I'll say about that.
okay.
I think many people who have survived domestic violence still think that the child has a right to have a relationship with the other parent. It is really bad for kids to witness domestic violence. So you really want to try to get counseling, take part in a program, figure out what in your history is, pushing you to behave this way and to want that kind of control. We have counseled some clients, depending on the nature of the violence, that this might or might not be the best tool for them.
Okay.
Because if the judge feels like this is someone who hurt that child, who has harmed that child, they're going to say, yeah, I think it's in your child. I don't think it's in your child's best interest.
Best interest, right.
So you have to be careful. Kids need their parents, and kids love their parents, even when their parents aren't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on whether you've been in your child's life, and also if you've ever harmed a child, this would not be the mitigation factor I would go with.
Okay. Are you presently working on some cases now?
Working on a whole bunch of cases. I've written 4 letters this week. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully everything goes well.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Miss Gail, Attorney Gail. Thank you so much. And I want to thank Team Work Inglewood for allowing me to do this. Thank you. Thank you, Team Work Inglewood. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Yes, that's right. That's right. For getting the word out, using my platform to help to get the word out. And I want to give them a special thanks for that. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right. No problem. Thank you.
Be in touch, people.
All right. All right, people. You already know what it is.
This live, uncut,
unedited. Peace. You already know what it is.